from the drones and satellite, everything together is integrated. That is the intelligence. The opportunity in defense. Stillness in a restless world. New Navy, which is intelligence, image. Hi, folks. This is Dr. Amit Batra, very dear friend of mine. NDA 91st Corps, then Naval College of Engineering, IIT Madras Masters, and a PhD from Canfield University. I got that right.
Yes, you did.
Good. He's also a visiting professor at the university, a very renowned college in Britain, and he's worked around the world. I'd say he was a blue-eyed boy in the Navy. I can say that. He can't.
I would like to think so.
you were, when we talk of the problems you've solved. He spent almost 7.5, 8 years working in Germany for a global leader in transmission systems called RENK. Almost what, a 150-year-old company?
That's right.
Yeah. So he's back in India almost a year. He started a deep tech startup called AstraYan. Full disclosure, I'm also an investor in a startup, and he's doing wonders in terms of technology. He's also a painter. He plays the guitar. He builds things. He's a complete polymath. So what we are going to do today is talk a bit about AstraYan, what he's doing, the large pond of defense expenditure in India, and how Indian companies can capitalize on the opportunity, and also talk about naval warfare and the future of Navy. So, Amit, welcome.
Thank you.
Beautiful day in Kunnur. You can see the hills and the mist. Amazing weather. I'd love to live here actually.
I can tell you I'm living here and it's wonderful.
Someday.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start first with what do you do in AstraYan today, and where will you be in 3 to 5 years?
Right. So, AstraYan is a deep tech company. We were, of course, founded last year, and we are focusing on building complex systems for naval and commercial ships.
Okay.
Primarily making ships smarter than what they are today, and taking them to a point where, yeah, let's say you can control them either remotely or the ships will have a brain of their own that they can operate autonomously.
So this is like having self-driving cars on the ocean.
Yes.
Self-driving ships on the ocean.
Conceptually,
I'm just simplifying it for
yes.
myself.
But from a level of complexity, if you see, it's a different nature of complexity because on a ship there are a lot of humans involved
Yes,
in running
yes,
a ship.
yes, yes.
On a car, you're replacing one man. Here, you're replacing a lot of brains and a lot of hands, both.
Yeah. It's almost a city on the ocean, right?
Right. So, a large naval ship, I mean, let's talk about a frigate. You're talking about anywhere between 150 to 200 men being on board.
Wow.
Right. So, you are trying to replace so many hands and minds at work by machines.
And I saw in one of your presentations, you'd made a schematic of, 3 components. The eyes, you said that the large part of your so-called ocean, the frigates and the carriers will be at the back, and you'll have unmanned vehicles or, vessels near the shore. Explain that to me, the architecture you're building and where you say, I build the brain of the ship, Ajay.
Right. So, first of all, the ships of today, I'm not saying they should be fully replaced. It should not happen, at least, and it will not happen in the near future. But what will happen is, or what is already happening is that you are augmenting the fleet with weapons of the future, or actually near future now, where your battle groups don't need to go in harm's way directly.
Interesting. Okay.
So you are carrying, let's say, corvette-sized ships as a part of your fleet who are sailing with you. And when you come close to an area of deployment, you put them in harm's way rather than putting your battle group in harm's way. And then, of course, with the aerial drones of today, they are the ones who are your eyes, who can give you first-hand information about what's happening on the ground which you want to dominate. And that information is being passed, of course, directly either to the autonomous ship or to the fleet or a combination of both. And they are working together as a singular system.
Interesting.
And this is where the technology is headed. So it's not about looking at a ship as a system. We are talking about the entire fleet as a system, and an integral part of the fleet is the autonomous ships.
Interesting. So if I have to just hypothetically, let's say the shore is about 200 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say the enemy's missile has that range.
Right.
So the manned vehicles, which is the large architecture, the large ships, the carriers, will be beyond 200 kilometers.
Right.
Your unmanned vessels will go much deeper in.
Right.
And from the drones and satellite, everything together is integrated. That is the intelligence you build.
Exactly. And so I use the word autonomously, but probably the more correct word, at least in the near future, is unmanned. So there are some operations which will happen autonomously, which I would say are the primary engineering functions of a ship. When I say engineering functions, for a common man, it means propulsion, power generation, and all the other auxiliary functions. The weapon part of it will be man in the loop.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of ethical concerns and
absolutely
that kind of decision making, which cannot be very easily mathematically programmed, is involved. So that is the part where the man will be in the loop, but the man is not getting cluttered by your day-to-day functioning of a ship. He has to focus only on the task at hand, and everything else is getting managed by the machines. Autonomous and unmanned, basically a hybrid system of these things, is what is going to, these are the functions that these ships will take on, and it will give you an advantage, a tactical advantage over the enemy, which has not really been seen so far. And this tactical advantage, I mean, the main point is, like a lot of people say, that let's build a lot of swarm of boats and we will attack. I would say that is very difficult. So swarm of drones or a swarm of in water, right? You are not moving at that speed, right? Compared to, let's say, aerial targets, and then you are only working in 2 dimensions and not in 3 dimensions.
Correct.
So those kind of things are very good, or what you called machars in one of your old videos, or mosquitoes. That's
which is the side drones,
right. And actually, mosquito is a word often used in the Navy when you talk about aerial objects, so it's not a wrong word per se.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got it right somehow. So, but keeping that part aside, when you look at this type of, so they are very good defensive weapons, so you confuse the enemy and you start taking out enemies' high price, let's say, weapons to track you down, and you are kind of making it prohibitive for him, and just in terms of cost to handle you, because you are sending these low cost mosquitoes out, and he's using very, very expensive missiles or whatever to bring them down. But when you want to talk about the offensive side of it, you need a huge amount of firepower. That's what Navy can provide, right? So compared to, even why do we have carriers, for example, right? So you have a an aircraft which goes, carries some weapons, and then comes back, replenishes itself, and goes back. And Navy gives you that power. Similarly, your frigates, destroyers, the amount of firepower they carry, so they can go and take out large targets. Now, when you talk about offensive strategy, that's where large surface vehicles they come in.
You do need them,
right? Medium sized or large size. So in the unmanned surface vehicles or the naval surface vehicles, when you say large, you're talking about 100 meters of length. So which actually starts reaching the size of a small frigate. Or you talk about somewhere between 50 and 60 meter long vessels, which are corvette size ships. My judgment says that it will be these 50 to 60 meter long vessels,
and many of
which will, of course, many of them, which will dominate. They are relatively cheap to build. They can carry a huge amount of firepower because you've removed the man from the ship.
Yes.
So you have a lot of space on board to accommodate firepower.
Yeah. So if you're saying there were 200 people on that
of course, on
vehicle,
a corvette, we have 50, 60 people.
50, 60. So you don't need 50, 60 so-called rooms.
Right.
Toilets, all of those.
Right. All the support systems. To support those people. And all that space now you utilize to carry a huge amount of firepower.
Correct.
So that's what makes this form of warfare, and it's coming. It's not that what I'm talking about is not happening. It's already,
Yeah.
there are various vessels around the globe.
Already
Experiments are being conducted. There are sailing vessels already which are under test. So we are already heading there, and I
So it's
believe
become a necessity then.
it's a necessity. So, and India as a country, I believe, should invest in this technology because this is the future. And let's say even our shipbuilding, which is, we have a lot of small shipyards.
Yes, we do.
Those small shipyards can be utilized very effectively to build these kind of platforms.
Okay, okay.
And we can build it at a very, very economical cost compared to, let's say, a lot of other nations. And we can, so I believe as a startup, we will focus on, let's say, the brain of the ship. And as a company, where we come from is a strong system integration background. So to build such vessels, you need naval architecture skills to build, let's say, the basic vessel. Then you need skills for system integration. How does the vessel system they integrate, let's say, with the brains
All
of the
these things.
vessels, the
Yes, yes.
electronics, the control systems, and so on. And along with that, you have, of course, somebody has to design that brain, and we are those people who are designing the brain.
Interesting.
And not just designing the brain and giving it to a shipyard, and the shipyard has to somehow integrate it with the vessel. We actually work with the shipyard to integrate this brain with the systems. And when you do this integration, you realize very fast that you can't design the systems in a traditional way, because
Interesting.
the brain itself starts influencing, because you're trying to control without humans being present, so the system design changes. And as
So
a
if,
company, we are trying to do this.
so if I have to think of it in a very layman kind of a manner, there's the old Navy thinking,
Yeah.
which is engineering, propulsion, big metal,
Yeah.
object, so to
Yeah.
say. And you have this new Navy, which is intelligence, image, brain, autonomous, unmanned, and marrying these two to create the vehicles of the future, the frigates of the future, and the technology of the future.
Exactly. Yes. And also the how, I mean, the Navy, let's say, as a customer, and shipyards are, let's say, the people who are executing those designs for the Navy. So they are also used to the old Navy. So the shipyards themselves have to see this change incorporate. And that's where this system integration skill becomes very important. So uh, in avionics, if you look at it, I mean, if you look at an aircraft, there's a pilot who sits and maybe is assisted by one or two people at best.
Yeah.
And they operate a huge, like if you think about an Airbus 380, right? It's a huge aircraft, but he doesn't go to his engines to do some work.
No.
So it's the same concept. You're
Understood.
getting it down to these vessels, that either you need one person or two persons, or nobody at all. Somebody in a remote station can control it, or better still, there is a brain inside the ship which can take decisions what a human would normally take.
Okay, now coming to the opportunity in defense. Then I'll come to the startup thing also. Before the Ukraine war, India was the largest buyer of defense equipment in the world. We spent almost 120 billion dollars in defense equipment. A lot of that is imported. Every 1% shift is $1 billion of opportunity for Indian companies. And congratulations to you. I think you'll be amongst the youngest startups to have made to the Ministry of Defense vendor list.
Yes,
within
in one segment, yes.
Yes, in your segment,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Which is not easy, given that there's a policy, purchase procedures, because here you need perfection.
Right.
You can't have half done product. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And just to put it on record, he's competing with Fincantieri of Italy and your ex-employer Renk,
That's right.
right, who you also collaborate with.
Yes.
Tell me what has changed in the Indian defense thinking and even Navy thinking that people like you are getting a chance to look at this large opportunity.
Right. So what we have achieved, let's say, in 1 year of our existence as a company, in olden days, this was unthinkable.
Yeah.
The kind of policies we had, the kind of thinking that was there. Now there is a fresh thinking. Being indigenous counts. That's a very important thing. So of course there is old school and new school of thought, and that's in every organization. So while we achieved this milestone, believe me, it was not easy.
I know. The number of hoops you've had to cross,
Yes.
I'm aware. We can't tell everything here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but that's why I'm saying it's an achievement.
It's an achievement,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying that what Navy. So Navy went through a long process of Navy and the shipyard. So it all started with the shipbuilder putting trust because he had worked
Yeah.
on similar projects and he had some first-hand experience. From there, the shipbuilder and the Navy, they have to take a decision that can we take in a new company and, from a risk point of view, will our project be at risk? And of course, that requires a careful, full
complete
360.
diligence,
Right.
absolutely.
And they went through it.
Yeah.
And good for us that they actually took a decision that, yes, we indeed can deliver this. And we have reached the list of suppliers. Of course, there will be a process with the tender and all those things. So Navy has changed, MOD has changed, India has changed.
Wow.
And I can see it because I was living abroad for a while. Of course, for some Indian projects which were being executed, I had some view of what was going on, but at a obviously execution level. But at a policy level, things have changed. It's still not perfect, to be honest about it, but we are moving in that direction. Biggest thing, the intent is there. Yeah. So we have to continue moving in this direction because there is a lot of potential. It's an opportunity, and there is enough talent. Both things have to marry somehow.
See, there's this shlok in Gita I keep quoting, where the second line is Sarva Rambha hi doshena, Dhume Agnini Vavrita. Every start is full of imperfection, of dosh, but you have to do it.
Right.
And the fact that Navy and Defense are giving people like you a chance, and you've all of course, proven yourself, you should tell the audience about what you did about 16, 17 years back for the Navy. You saved them crores of rupees, 18 months of time. What was that project? That was one of the criteria why you could get on the vendor list. Please talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, so people. So it was a long time back. I was a junior officer in the Navy, and I had just finished my masters at IIT Madras and written a paper which was published in a prominent British
Maritime journal. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, that was the academic side of it. So in the Navy, when you finish your masters and you come back to the Navy, a lot of people say sin theta, cos theta, wahin chhod ke aao, now you're in the real world. This was actually told to me. So,
Okay.
But of course, I was involved in this project, and they had an issue of the ship's propulsion transmission system, something related to alignment of it. It's a very long, complex process on a big ship to get that right. And it's a bit of science, a bit of art. Somehow it had gone wrong. It was,
I see.
The shipyard was building that ship after a large ship like that after a long time. So, a lot of young engineers. So a lot of mistakes were made, and it reached a point where the original equipment manufacturer said, okay, stop, pull everything out, start from scratch. 18 months. And of course, 18
all
months
the
is
effort
just
that
the
is
time,
gone
right?
is gone.
That
Money,
is gone,
everything.
right?
Wow.
Plus a project delay, right? Navy gets the ship late, the shipyard may face, some liquidated damages or things like that. So that time a Commodore found my paper online, and he asked someone that who's this guy. So they said, oh, he sits every day in the meetings. How come he doesn't speak up? Yeah, because he's looking after gas turbines and not the transmission system. So my job in that organization was
very specialized.
Yeah, so it's very specialized. But somehow in my masters I had written this, so that was a different life, and now I was leading a different life. So he called me. He said, "You have to take this on," and I told him that we've done it only in a lab. We've never done this before on such a large scale, and yeah, that could have some effects on the results. But he said, "No, you have to do it."
And he trusted
it was
you.
Yes.
Wow.
He trusted me more than at that point what I trusted myself, to be honest.
Amazing.
So he pushed me. He made me do it. And initially there was a lot of skepticism, and rightly so. It was, a lot of experimental work. But we got it. We made some corrections based on some measurements we made, and in the end, we sailed the ship after making those corrections, and the ship still sails, I believe, quite well. So whatever we did, it worked. But it kind of highlighted that this is something which I notice a lot in our defense industry. We do a lot of good things, but then we believe that we need some validation from a third party, and
It's someone Western.
some Western company or yeah, from wherever. But
Hmm,
we believe,
hmm.
we lack the experience. Now, I'm pretty sure the people who vet those procedures are also applying some very basic things. Maybe or maybe not, he has seen that kind of a problem before. But this is the part, the shloka which you just spoke of. You know, if you have to learn how to walk, you have to first fall.
Absolutely.
And let's say that experiment, what we did, had failed. So at that point in time, I would know, okay, I will put a correction and maybe do a second, you know, and at some point you would get it right. There is no other way.
There is no other way. In fact,
Right.
I remember I had an American boss when we were part of a Japan hedge fund, and things were not going right for us. And he said, Ajay, there's this amazing Japanese saying, Nana korobi ya oki. I'll fall 7 times, but I'll get up the eighth and not fall again. Right? So you have to trust someone. There is no perfection. You have to keep at it,
Right.
and someday you get it right. And when you get it right,
Right.
you know,
So we have to learn
yes, yes,
to
yes,
believe in ourselves, and you have to accept that we will make
we
mistakes.
can make mistakes.
So, for example, when we were going through the nomination process, so there was one school of thought that, okay, we have credentials and this and that, but then somebody said, as a company, you're just less
Zero
than
experience.
zero experience. But what is a company? Company is a bunch of individuals.
Individuals, right?
Companies are,
right.
it's not a living organism,
But
right?
it's made of living people.
Living people. If those people have experience, the company has experience technically.
Well said.
Right?
Well said.
But if you say that something which has never been done in India before, so in this particular case, no Indian company has ever made it
What you're doing.
to this list. It was always foreign companies. Now, if you ask me as an Indian company to have experience, that's a catch-22. It's a chicken and egg story, right? No matter, so you will say that you need experience, but
But there's no Indian company who already has it, right?
right. So where do I get? So that
Wow.
means in our case, we were lucky that we went to, we got a foreign contract.
In fact, again, to put it on record, his ex-employer, Rank, only gave him the first contract when he left the company, that why don't you do this for us? So I think the collaborative culture of Germany is also amazing.
It is. It is a very mature culture. So, I mean, my ex-employer, Rank. So I had a fantastic time there working as an employee. Amazing work culture, amazing engineering work. At the same time, when I was quitting, even though there was no bad blood, it was, I want to do something on my own. And
they give you a
in
contract.
fact, I remember I had just left the company and there was a conference. I was invited for that.
Wow.
And my, the let's say the head of the Marine Division actually announced in the worldwide forum that one of our employers has set up his own company and we are collaborating. And we also compete in some orders, but we still collaborate. And we need to have that maturity.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's business.
In fact, I want to say one thing. Just beyond these hills, in that direction, is the Wellington Club. We went for a coffee yesterday, and General Manekshaw was commander in 1959. I'll actually share a picture. It was an amazing surreal experience for me.
Right, this place has so much military history.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, of course, General Manekshaw also had his home here. I think he still has that home here.
Okay.
And squadron leader, or now, of course, Air Commodore, retired Rakesh Sharma. He's got his residence here. So this place is full of
the astronaut Rakesh Sharma,
the first Indian astronaut here.
in space. Oh, he's here.
He lives in Kunur, and a lot of retired officers live here. And a lot of people ask me why Kunur. My firm belief and is that to do something creative, you need to hear yourself breathe, and you need to have that peace and quiet around you, which probably you stayed here now 2 days. You know, you can hear the birds.
Yeah.
It just gives you that peace, and then your mind kind of slows down and starts thinking very creatively. At least that's my belief, and it helps. And a lot of startups are flourishing, of course, in bustling cities. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but in our case, the kind of work we are doing, we have the freedom to work in such places. And the
No, no,
idea is,
I know. So you have one office in IT Madras,
that's right.
and half the time he's in Delhi. Sometimes he'll be at a port, sometimes at a shipyard. He runs around. See, but you're right. The world is a restless place.
Right.
And we need some places where we can be still. And stillness is needed to reflect,
Right.
to think, right?
Reflect. Yes.
Yeah. So you need places like this, which gives you what I call stillness in a restless world. Is that the right way to describe it? Or
That's very well said.
yeah.
That's
So
very well said.
Amit, since 5 a.m. and I've been awake, I woke to the chirping of these birds. And one thing I noticed, till about 10 a.m., I didn't hear a single crow.
Ah, okay.
Even yesterday and today, till about 9 or 10 a.m., it was only the birds. The cacophony of crows started around 10 a.m. yesterday and today. I don't know, is it natural or this place is not too dirty so you don't have scavenging crows? I don't know, but that's an observation. I need to do some research.
I have to do some research.
Even now, I don't hear crows. I just heard one. The next question, before I ask, the next question will be on naval strategy. But if anyone wants to work in a deep tech company and learn, you could be an engineer, you could be a designer, any age, as long as you're willing to work hard, learn. I will put a description you can apply to his company. He is looking for bright people. Age does not matter. You can see he's really young still, but you need grit and a lot of gratitude and curiosity to learn. Any field. Okay, that's first. Now coming to the changes in global warfare. If you had to design, you often tell me, Ajay, I'm not a strategist, but then you'd give me a brilliant quote. You should only quote that about land and sea. Okay. And what does the warfare of or defense strategy or offense strategy of 2050 look like? And then if you had to design Navy, what would you do?
Okay. So I'll still repeat, I'm not a strategist by any, there are a lot of brilliant people in that area. I'm more of a technologist, but to be a technologist, you need to understand strategy. Uh, so, I mean, again, this is not something I have said. I think it was Winston Churchill or one of these great speakers, and maybe somebody from the Admiralty. I don't know. To be supreme on land, you need to be supreme at sea.
Wow.
And if you look at it, it's pure common sense, right? The world is connected by the oceans, and if you want to be a global power, there is no other way than to be dominant
on the ocean.
On the oceans. And history has shown us, once upon a time, the British Empire. Today, it's, let's say, the US can decide to bomb a country. I'm not getting into the ethics of it, but I'm just saying somebody can do it because he has that kind of power on the sea. So he can deploy his resources wherever he wants in the globe and extract what he wants from the globe. And that is something, if we as a nation need to, if we want to have a global footprint, we need to have a very strong Navy. And of course, I have a bit of a bias, being a retired naval officer. But keeping that part aside, so if you look at our defense budgets, right, and right from when India became independent, so our focus was on our neighbors.
Correct.
And that
land borders, Pakistan,
basically, right,
China,
right.
Yeah.
And therefore, so the army is still the largest, force that we have.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not saying we have a lot of challenges there, and I have also trained in a tri-service atmosphere, and I understand at least to a very decent level of the challenges with all the three forces. We need all three, a good balance, but we significantly need to expand our navy if we want to have a global footprint, because then I'm not saying we should become an offensive country, but we can, let's say, underline our intentions very, very well if you have a strong navy, and that's something which needs a lot of focus, and it'll take many years to reach that point, but we have to start doing it today. Already you can see a policy shift. So the government is already focusing on the Navy a lot. We are talking about new submarine acquisitions, but I would still say that we are still acquiring. And if you want to be a global power, you can't be just acquiring.
You need to build yourself.
You have to build yourself. So acquiring is, I mean, maybe in the past when we didn't have
easy short-term solution.
Yeah, it's a short-term solution, right? And of course, to fight a war, you need very good weapons in this and that. But I mean, our neighbors like China have shown that you have to take steps, but the only way you can achieve those steps is by indigenous. You have to have your own intellectual property.
Yes.
That means first step. So we concentrate today a lot on manufacturing. So a foreign, I don't know, an Airbus or somebody or Boeing will set up a plant in India. That generates jobs, in my opinion. Maybe you learn a few things, but the intellectual property is not yours. It's lying somewhere else, and nobody passes on intellectual property, no matter how many MOUs you sign. And even I would do the same. I'm not blaming anyone that why are they not, because they have built that intellectual property by pumping a huge amount of resources into it.
Money, time, people, so much, yes.
But we have to make the same investment. There is no shortcut. So we have been now independent for a long time. It's high time that we start trusting ourselves more than anything else, that we also can build things. And like we already discussed, we will have pitfalls, we will have falls and flaws in our design. But unless you have those flaws, things will never improve. Otherwise, we'll be in that chicken and egg story. Oh, we can't build because you don't have a reference, and then if you don't have a reference, you can't build. So that loop can never end, and that loop can only be ended by very strong policies. That if you allow water to, I mean, if you build a dam and you put a small hole in it, water will escape. So in our policy, that last hole has to be plugged, because everybody will take the easier way, because oh yeah, we need the best. Of course you need the best, but
there could be a hole.
But yeah, that's a good thing. But if you have an acquisition system and then there are sanctions applied, or Ukraine war has shown, there's a huge dependency. I don't know, not many people even probably know it, but there's a huge dependency on Ukraine for some of our defense systems.
Yes.
That war has clearly shown how vulnerable you are.
We are.
That war, which had nothing to do with us, puts us at risk. If we had invested in that technology, maybe 20 years back, today that war wouldn't be affecting us. And this is how we have to think. And this is what has to probably change in our acquisition system, changing to actually, I don't know what's the right word, but to a very creative system.
So this whole Atmanirbhar thing is required to get to Amritkaal, as we say.
That's the right way to put it. You always somehow find the words. Yes. Yeah.
If you have to do a startup today, what are the challenges for someone to do a defense or deep tech startup? What are the challenges you're facing?
Right. So, in my opinion, the word startup itself means a challenge. So deep tech comes part 2. So there's a whole lot of uncertainty which gets attached to it. I would say, as a founder, if you're, let's say, beyond my age level, that's taking a high level of risk. Even, you have to have the appetite for risk. That's part 1.
Yeah.
Because things can go very well, but things can go south very fast. Every day is a new story. But the kind of fulfillment, every small, so it's like climbing steps. It's one by one. You take a step.
Yeah.
Every step is a victory. You have to treat yourself to that. And you will take 3 steps forward and maybe 6 back. But that's a process which you have to be prepared for. And of course, there are books written and there are enough interviews. No matter what people try to tell you, the only way you learn it is by doing it yourself. No matter how much you prepare, you have to prepare very well. You have to strategize. You have to keep your finances in order, both personally and of course for your company. That now you're getting into a highly uncertain territory. It can be very fulfilling. It can be very challenging. So this is just the startup part of it. Now getting into deep tech. So there are 2 parts of it. One is the tech part of it, and the other is the consumer side of it or the customers. In a deep tech world, you are trying to build a product which the world usually has not seen.
Yeah, yeah.
So the market is not ready for it.
Yeah, it's like in a world of candles, you're shown a bulb.
Right. And now people will say why? And so
Big
many
candle
other
is enough.
questions. What is there works. Why should we change for you?
Interesting.
So you have to obviously convince the world that what you bring to the table is of enough value so that it you should be rewarded by a change in the process of thinking. And this, of course, uh, can be quite challenging, right? So you are going and trying to convince the consumer that change your ways. That doesn't usually happen easily. The other side of it is to build it itself. So you have a vision and you are trying to really push on the limits of technology. Everything that you're doing has not been done before. So you're trying, of course, everything is built. I mean, it's engineering, right? We are not, let's say, changing the laws of physics, but we are using engineering to build a new product. And you are trying to build something which is so original that you don't get any inspiration from somewhere. You can get a small idea, maybe I can scale it up to do this. And then, so you are creating a system architecture with a lot of blocks and making a lot of connections. And then for each block, you need to fill in with something probably which has been done before. As a system, it's completely new, but maybe those parts have been built by some people before you. But to make those searches, to find the people who can do that for you. So everything can't be done by one person, or so a lot of people with different specializations are required. And all this you are trying to do, of course, with a very, very large financial constraint to begin with.
Yeah,
especially in your first stages. So when we started, we were funding everything like it was bootstrapped, right? So at that stage, every penny counts. So you have to find that right balance. How much should I spend to take the next step? But at the same time, my cash flow should not go negative. Even as an engineer, with this basic terms of finance, I could clearly say that okay, if I'm spending 10 rupees, yeah, maybe I should at least have some reserve in my pocket. So that fine balance of tech, finance, consumer, you're managing with a very few people. So everything comes down to one point: belief. Wow. Self-belief. Wow. That what I'm trying to do will sell. Beautiful. And you have to be pig-headed about it. The whole world will be telling you you're wrong, but you have to say, no, hang on, I know what I'm doing. So like one of my seniors used to tell me that if you want to do something big in a system, the system has a huge amount of inertia. It doesn't change easily. People will not accept it. So we used to call it the woodpecker syndrome. So a woodpecker comes and starts pecking on a tree, and a normal man would see, and what a foolish bird, just pecking away. He'll bring the tree down. Yes. Wow. Because he's just pecking at the same point. He knows what he's going to do. Everybody may not believe in him. Wow. But that small bird has that power to bring a huge tree down. And actually, if you try to tell, I'll take a big saw and cut this tree off, people will, there'll be a lot of resistance. But if you're a small bird pecking away, nobody looks at you, you can bring the tree down. So you have to believe in that.
In fact, before I end, if you want more tea, you need more tea gardens. If you want more apples, you need to plant more trees. If you want more jobs and Indian defense, you need more entrepreneurs like Mr. Batra, Dr. Batra, I have to say. But Amit, I'm really proud that people like you are coming back to India. He could have easily spent his life in Germany in a very nice, hilly area like this, a brilliant job, good money. But he's come back as a patriot, doing a lot in deep tech. And I'm really happy to be associated with him and found an amazing friend at this age of our lives.
Yeah.
Looking forward to a really, nothing. In fact,
thank you so much.
We often say that we are really young minds.
We should believe so.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.